Can't be out in these pedophiles and not showing their picture. Everybody got to see it in their face. So, former Auburn school resource officer sentenced for sexual abuse of a minor. And this is in the Finger Lakes region of New York State, which, by the way, if you've never been to the Finger Lakes, God damn it, I just got off the wrong tab. It's a gorgeous portion of the country, I must say. It is mighty pretty up there in the Finger Lakes. So hold on, give me a second. I just somehow got off of my tab and I hate the world. But this particular officer, who has since been fired by the Auburn Police Department, like I said, he was a school resource officer at Auburn High School. And his 16-year-old victim describes that is where she met this individual. Hold on, let me get y'all this crummy nigga's name real quick, real quick. What is this doing here? Okay, so yeah, this is from Finger Lakes One News, and it says in Cuyahoga County Court, a former Auburn police officer whose name is William Morrissey III was sentenced to how long? 2 years in state prison for sexually abusing a minor. I want you guys to take note of the sentence there. 2 years, two in jail. William Morrissey, that's him right there. Morrissey, who is 34 years old, who served as a school resource officer at Auburn High School, faced charges including first degree sexual abuse of a minor and indecent and disseminating indecent material to a minor. The 16-year-old victim, who was a freshman when the abuse occurred, bravely confronted Morrissey in court, according to prosecutors. She described how he exploited her inexperience. Yes, how he exploited her inexperience, causing lasting emotional trauma and distrust of adults. Take note of that also. That can be the lasting trauma of abuse of children. The article continues. Judge Thomas Leone, acknowledging Morrissey's betrayal of trust as a former police officer, sentenced him also for misdemeanors, everybody, including endangering the welfare of a child and official misconduct. It says the sentences for the misdemeanors will merge with the state prison sentence. So it sounds as though the misdemeanor charges will be served concurrently in addition to the 2 years that he has been sentenced. It says the Cuyahoga County Sheriff's Office arrested Morrissey following an investigation initiated by the Auburn Police Department. And it said that Morrissey had eventually been fired and then the investigation pursued. And there he is, guilty. So there he is, former school resource officer William Morrissey III, 34 years old, about to do 2 years in the bang because he exploited a 16-year-old freshman in high school sexually. 2 years, 2 years, 2 years. You can take that down, Will. And to be clear, y'all, so I have a theory, and maybe it's not a complicated theory. It's not like a far reach of a theory. When it comes to sexual predation, if he got caught and convicted of one, so that means he must have at least did a dozen, right? Like he must have did at least 20. You dig? Because that's not how predation works. Usually, predators are allowed for whatever reason. Either the victims choose not to come forward and say anything, which we know is completely understandable. And we do not fault victims who don't speak up. But guess what, guys? Some people do speak up. Some people get ignored. Some people's complaints are not taken as serious or taken as valid or credible. And that is one way in which some abusers are allowed to persist. Let's stay in New York, shall we? Let's go on to the island. AK Shallin, niggas wildin', old folks scream, stop the violence. Pop up that New York Daily News if you could for me, Will. Now, this one is a doozy. I'm not going to get into this one too deep because I've already told you guys what all of these cops are charged with, and hopefully going to jail behind. So we did, and I meant to give content trigger warnings, but I think I said it in advance what we were going to be talking about. So hopefully it's not taking everybody too much by surprise. And Will, at your convenience, drop this link in the chat when you are ready. It don't have to be immediately because this article is really long and I'm not going to read the whole thing because the charges are pretty heinous. But just to give you an idea of the kind of people that are among the ranks of the NYPD, here we go. Staten Island NYPD cop faces new federal charges, including of sex abuse of a minor and allegedly met some of the victims while on the job. Okay. I don't know what it is about these. I mean, I can't say young because not this story, but a coming story. The cop accused of sexual abuse is of damn near a kid himself. He's only 21, right? And this motherfucker right here, hold on, let me get this nigga's name right. Here we go. Officer Christopher Terranova, who was also 34. Yo, what year was these 34-year-olds born? What is this? What happened in 1989? What the fuck was going on? Officer Christopher Terranova. He was working at the 121st Precinct Station in Graniteville. I hope have that right, New York. Correct me if I got it wrong. The 121st Precinct Station in Graniteville. Okay, when one of the victims he met was a 15-year-old robbery victim. I'm going to repeat that. This cop, according to federal prosecutors, allegedly made the moves and tried to groom a 15-year-old boy whom he met on the job. Why? Because the child was a victim of a robbery. Can you say this motherfucker is the most deplorable piece of shit? You fucking piece of shit ass pedophile bastard. In the course of your job, you out here trolling for teenage victims. I hope they put you under the fucking jail. Officer Christopher Terranova. Now, according to federal prosecutors, Officer Terranova made contact with this 15-year-old. So again, met the kid while taking his statement because the child was a victim of a crime. And then prosecutors allege that Officer Terranova accessed an NYPD database to obtain the boy's phone number, in which he began contacting him. Initially contacting him very innocuous. Hey, it's Officer Terranova, the cop that you met at the 121st with your mom. Just wanted to see if you were okay. That's how the grooming starts, trying to gain some trust, build a rapport, inquire about the victim's well-being to show some interest in, their feelings and how they're doing. Yup. Someone who is already somewhat vulnerable and perhaps even traumatized after being the victim of a crime. Again, piece of shit ass cop. Terranova went on to contact the teen several more times via social media and then started to steer the conversation sexually. In fact, trying to solicit the child to send him explicit pictures of their, privates, et cetera, et cetera. And that's not the only victim, the 15-year-old, not the only victim. In fact, another one of Terranova's victims, according to prosecutors, was 12 years old, according to a court filing. This is from the New York Daily News. Terranova allegedly offered the 12-year-old a ride home, told the kid that he would give him a ride home. It doesn't say here in the article how Terranova and the 12-year-old victim were acquainted. However, When Terra Nova, the cop, showed up to give the 12-year-old a ride home, he in fact did not take the child home, according to papers, took him to a wooded area and assaulted the child. This person is already facing a number of charges, but now federal prosecutors have added more charges because they did a raid on Terra Nova's home where they found photographs and they found a safe containing information about victims. And he had notes, everybody. He had grooming notes on these children that included information like their likes, their dislikes, their religion, and their family information. And he also has correspondence between he and some of his victims that he kept in the safe that law enforcement people found when they raided his house. And this, you guys, again, adults in positions of authority, in positions of power, no matter what, when there is a disproportionate power dynamic, the potential for abuse and exploitation is always there. And the tragic thing about kids is that kids are always going to be at a power disadvantage, right? Like, I mean, kids don't have power. Like, the period, point blank, full stop. Like, kids don't have voice. Even if they do they even have the words? Do they have the vocabulary? Do they have the confidence? Do they have the ability to speak up and advocate for themselves? More oftentimes, that answer is no. And the thing is, we condition our children to say and to believe that cops are officer friendly. Look at this motherfucker. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, does he work at a school resource officer too? Hold on, I might. There's a lot of school resource officers on this docket. So no, 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 not him. A cop in the upcoming story also worked as a school resource officer. But when you call the police for help and you teach your children that if you are in danger and you need help, you call the police. And this motherfucker shows up and tries to make a pass at your son. This motherfucker accesses the NYPD database, totally abusing his power as a cop to obtain information on a victim. Woo! I wonder how many of them they got working at NYPD. My guess is that Officer Christopher Terranova ain't the only one at NYPD. In fact, isn't former NYPD officer, current mayor Eric Adams, also accused of some sexual impropriety when he was police? Huh? What's the likelihood that he did that shit? I say very. What's the likelihood? A lot. It's a lot. Eric Adams punk ass talking about, I don't remember. Yeah, nigga, I bet you don't fucking remember. You probably grabbed a lot of ass back in 91, motherfucker. Yeah, I bet your ass don't remember, you bitch. You know what? Let me calm down. I'm sorry, y'all. Let me resume. Okay, so let me please give content and trigger warnings for this next case that I'm about to tell you about, y'all. And I'm certain I don't even know if anybody's still in here. Y'all probably like Kim. If I wanted to watch investigative discovery, if I wanted to watch stories about bad things happening to people, I would just watch cable like a regular person, Kim. I don't come to YouTube for this shit. So for all y'all that is still here, thank you so much. Thank you. Just bear with me. I'm here. I'm on a mission to make the police look bad, y'all. Sometimes we got to suffer through some shit in order for that to happen. So my bad. But let me offer again all the content warnings and trigger warnings on this one, because we're about to see a piece coming out of Pennsylvania, the Philadelphia area. Big up to Infinite Content. Infinite Content, I think you did send me this story weeks ago when it broke, 3 weeks ago to be precise, because this involves the Sharon Hill Police Department, Sharon Hill, Pennsylvania. Why do we know the Sharon Hill Police Department, everybody? Because it was one of them punk ass motherfuckers from the Sharon Hill Police Department that shot and killed Fanta Billy. I believe she was 8 years old, an 8-year-old black child. These fucking Sharon Hill, Pennsylvania police officers show up at a football game where, shit's kicking off, and these motherfuckers start firing indiscriminately into the crowd, and they murder an 8-year-old. So this is how we know the Sharon Hill Police Department. This is what we know them for. And now we're going to know them for something else. because one of their officers, really one of their new recruits, recently sworn onto the force, is actually a violent, allegedly. Jesus, I hate saying allegedly, but I said it, lawyers. So when y'all pull that transcript, anybody try to run a suit on me, well, she did say allegedly, even though clearly she didn't mean it. I don't got to mean it, nigga. I said it. All right. So allegedly, right? This motherfucker allegedly is a violent sexual predator going back to his childhood. Yikes. And he's only 21. So y'all got to check this story out. This shit is absolutely bonkers. This one comes to us from 6 ABC News out of Philadelphia. Will, let's check it out.
This officer in Delaware County is charged with the rape of a teenager tonight. It's just one of 3 sexual assaults he is now being accused of, dating back years. The accusations come just months after he was sworn into the police force. Action News reporter Aliana Gomez has the story from Sharon Hill.
These very disturbing details involve former Sharon Hill police officer Tyler Humphreys, who was recently serving as a high school resource officer. He's facing a slew of rape and sexual assault related charges in Chester County involving 3 juvenile victims over the course of 8 years. 21-year-old Tyler Humphreys is accused of forcing a 9-year-old boy to perform sex acts on the suspect, who was reportedly 12 years old at the time. Investigators say the sexual assaults went on for 4 years, starting in 2014 in East Whiteland Township. Then last December in Charleston Township, detectives say Humphreys gave a 15-year-old girl alcohol and waited until she was intoxicated and unconscious to rape her. Around that same time last year, Humphreys allegedly gave a 19-year-old girl an excessive amount of over-the-counter drugs and sexually assaulted her while she was sleeping. According to the affidavit, the victim also told police that Humphreys had inappropriately touched and abused her when she was 11 years old. He was 12 at the time. Humphreys also worked part-time for Fulcroft Police and was recently a school resource officer at Academy Park High School in Sharon Hill. We received this statement from Sharon Hill Police Chief Richard Herron saying, quote, former officer Tyler Humphreys has been terminated from the Sharon Hill Police Department. All of the alleged allegations occurred prior to his employment with the Sharon Hill Police Department. Our thoughts and prayers are with the victims and their families. Detectives say they have physical and digital evidence corroborating the victims and witness statements. Of course, if anyone out there has any further information, they should contact the Chester County DA's office.
Yeah. All right. Okay, first of all, that statement issued by the Sharon Hill, who was the chief of police, saying that Tyler Humphreys has been fired from the department and all the alleged acts he's accused of happened before he was hired as a cop. Oh, so that tells me that y'all screening processes are bullshit. Like, oh, well, y'all can't properly vet rapists, Sharon Hill Police Department. I mean, just tell the truth. Like, you can, everybody, let's read through the lines here. What are the screening processes? What is the psych exam? What is the evaluation look like? What does the background check look like, Sharon Hill Police Department? Clearly it ain't shit because y'all hired an alleged multiple serial rapists. Let me say this also, everybody, and what up, Big Teal? Thank you so much for being in here. Especially for people that are parents, my parents. Parents, you got to have these talks with your kids, okay? Because your kids need to understand that it's not always going to be Father McKnight at the rectory, or it's not always going to be Officer Tyler Humphreys, who might be, your sexual abuser. It could be your classmate. So the way the package was phrased there, it made a bit a little ambiguous. But Humphreys is accused when he was 12. He is accused of assaulting a boy who was 9. And as you heard, one of his alleged rape victims also says that he touched her unwantedly when she was 11 and he was 12. So we're talking about minors. I mean, except for when he was an adult and obviously still committing these acts. But it seems as though there is at least a 10-year period in which this person had a problem keeping his hands to himself, or had a problem with consent, or had a problem not forcing people into unwanted, or forcing his peers into unwanted sexual situations. And you guys have to have these conversations with your kids, man. Yeah, your kids could be getting sexually assaulted by their classmates, possibly by their teammates. There's a video, a story here that I've covered in Montgomery County, Maryland, where the junior varsity football team, unfortunately, the name of the high school escapes me at the moment, but I have videos on my channel somewhere. One of the rites of passage for the JV football players was for them to be hazed in the form of them being R-worded, sexually assaulted, with a foreign object, right? In the high school locker room, adults were aware of this. Like, it's crazy. So, I've talked about this before. How do we get a hold of our boys? And I know you'll be like, yeah, what about the girl? No, I'm not saying girls don't do bad shit. They do all the time. Not like boys do, y'all, and not at the rates and not to the extent. And you can go argue with your pappy about that shit. Don't argue with me. Argue with these numbers, okay? Argue with these statistics. Argue with these stories. Like, I don't quite understand how some of our boys get to be this way, how they get to be so aggressive sexually, right? And again, we're talking with this individual, Tyler Humphreys. He was being sexually violent with other boys and girls, right? So it's indiscriminate. But we can't ignore these instances when they happen, especially even if the alleged perpetrator is a kid. If he's 11, 12, 13, 14-year-old, all the more reason to get a hold of that motherfucker right then and there. Because a 12-year-old kid who doesn't understand boundaries, or no, fuck, not understand, who doesn't give a fuck about boundaries, about consent, about not being violated, is going to grow up to be a 21-year-old grown ass man, possibly with a title, possibly with some power, who does not give a fuck about consent or boundaries or the word no. Right? So, reaching our kids, for fuck's sake, as soon as possible, to number one, help to end any trauma they may be experiencing at the hands of some of their peers or their classmates or their teammates, is one thing, but you got to get a hold of these fucking young predators before they grow up to be grown-ass man predators. Okay? Whew, one more story. One more in this slew, because when I made it clear what this theme of this segment was going to be, Molly, you guys know Molly. Molly said, "Oh, wait. Cops ain't shit in my hometown either of Louisville, Kentucky." Molly sent me this story. Pop up that joint if you could, Dale Wilbert. Oh, did I pull up the wrong one? I did. Hold on. Because this happened not in 2023, just ahead, pardon me, 2020. Wait, what year is this? 2024. Right. So my three previous stories all have happened this year. Well, the NYPD cop story, his allegations stem from shit that he did a couple years ago. But the new news is that the feds are increasing these charges on his ass, right? But Molly sent me this story. This is from late last year. And this comes from Louisville Public Radio. And it says a $3.65 million settlement has been reached in LMPD Explorers program sex abuse case. And if you don't know what the who, the what, everybody knows what the Explorers program is, right? Where young men and women are encouraged to a career in the law enforcement field by getting to be explorers. I don't know, going on ride-alongs. They get to stomp motherfuckers out who did they let the explorers get some little kicks in after the cops done yank somebody out out their car for having something dangling from their rearview mirror and putting handcuffs, and they let the little explorers get their little kicks in. I'm joking. That's not what happened. Let me not joke. I'm sorry. I told you guys, sometimes I will joke during inappropriate times. This is one of those times. My apologies. Let me get back to the solemnity of this, because this is a very important story. So, it says that 7 plaintiffs in the lawsuit against the Louisville Metro government and against the Boy Scouts of America regarding the LMPD's Explorer program will receive $3.65 million after reaching a settlement last week. And this is last week, is not last week. It is sometime late last year or 2022, something like that. But again, there's so many of these stories, and and very few of them get any serious or significant national coverage. So a lot of times you'd be like, "What? When did that happen?" Yeah, because shit happens all the time, and it don't get reported upon. So the particulars about this briefly. It says the lawsuit surrounding abuse allegations, including RAPE. I don't know why I spell it out sometimes and sometimes I just say it because I'm not anyway. Y'all know what it is. Including rape against Louisville Metro Police Department officers who worked with the Explorers program. Oh, who worked with the Explorers program, a program meant to train and encourage youth to law enforcement careers. However, three former LMPD officers were convicted in federal court on charges relating to sex crimes following allegations that they used the Explorers program to abuse children. It says the first lawsuit was filed back in March of 2017. So, the Explorers program, by the way, has been suspended there in Louisville. I'm sure there are probably more folks that will likely come forward because, again, that's how predators do. They leave a trail. They leave a roster, a collection of victims in their wake. And if they were police, you can only assume that, I'm sorry, so you think these three LMPD officers from there in Louisville, what, they only abused these kids this time? No, no. Let's not be silly. Let us not be ridiculous. So again, when you have the police who themselves are the predators, are the sexual perpetrators, like, I'm sorry, what are victims supposed to do and think, right? Um, because you got to understand that on some level, many of the allegations that people bring forward, if they are brave enough to try to come and point the finger at a cop and saying that this cop harmed me, we know that the police officers all the time give each other the benefit of the doubt. No, what you mean? That's Mikey. That's me and Mikey go golfing on the weekends. Like no. Mikey has a wife. Mikey's a great dad. You can't tell me Officer Mikey is out here raping. I don't believe that. I'm not going to take that seriously. This person, look at this person. They're under the influence or they're intoxicated or look how they're dressed. You can't take these people seriously. But it's important again that we highlight and point out that police officers and police departments routinely hire sexual predators, psychopaths, outright racists, white supremacists, people who are homophobic, and people who hate women. Oh, and they're anti-black to boot, right? And then they get trained in, right? A lot of this stuff gets reinforced. The police are taught to have dominance and power over the situation. You have to gain control of the situation, right? These cops don't know when to turn that off, right? Anything they want or an outcome that they want to happen, they've been trained in how to facilitate that and to make that happen, to bring the situation under their control and into their will. And that, for all the talk about cops need to be trained better, they need to be screened fucking better. Like, I'm sorry, I blame the Sharon Hill Police Department. I blame the Auburn Police Department up there in New York. I blame NYPD. I blame LMPD. Like, obviously, you must want predators and psychopaths and white supremacists in your ranks. Because how the fuck do they keep getting hired? How y'all keep hiring these same Bamas? I know how. Either these are the people that you want, right? Like you want a psychopath patrolling the streets of Louisville, patrolling the streets of Staten Island, right? You must want a psychopath doing that. And it's just the cost of doing business. If we have a recruiting class of 220 of them are psychos and sexual predators, hey, a few bad apples. A few bad apples. In the eyes of police, a few bad apples does not spoil the bunch. And that is why police operate on a completely different plane of reality than the rest of us. And that's why, as an institution, they need to be discredited in your mind and in the minds and hearts of everybody within our community. Please go tell the others.